This is Grader Project 1 for Chapter 2. I'm going over the Metropolitan Zoo gift shop steps. Step 2 introduces a new function called the if function. The if function has 3 different parts to it. I'm going to walk through some of those parts with you guys here so you have a better understanding of what each part of the if function does. So functions versus formulas. Functions are preset formulas within the system, within Excel, that allow for you to just plug in the range of information that you need to look up, and Excel will calculate what you're looking for. The if function is one of those functions that's basically, if this occurs, then I'm going to do that. So for example, if the weather is 60 degrees, so I would say October, whatever the day is, Tuesday, let's say Tuesday equals 60 degrees. Now, Excel would see that as if that's true or not. Now, if Tuesday is 60 degrees, that would be true, let's say example. Then in the true box, I would say wear a jacket. And then in the false box, I would say no jacket. So that is an example. It asks if logical statements about, well, if this is occurring, this is what's going to happen. So we're going to insert an if function for step 2 here. I'm going to read it for you. We're in the Metropolitan Zoo gift shop, project 1 of your Grader projects. Use if function to calculate the regular pay and overtime pay based on a regular 40-hour work week in cells E5 and F5. Let's go ahead and click in cell E5. We're going to be looking at just this column of D for the work hours, and we're going to be reverting back over here to assumptions. Like this section is going to become very important for us. So I'm going to go ahead and click in cell E5, and instead of having to remember this entire function, Excel has these functions pre-built. You can click on the formulas tab. You can go to the logical box or logical book, and this is the if function. And you get an arguments box which comes up, which is really useful and helpful to understand the different steps and provide you sort of a rubric or scaffolding, to insert the information. So here in the if logical test, I'm just going to be looking at row 5. So I'm going to be looking at the data here. So it's saying if pay overtime for hours only if they've worked overtime. So we want to first insert what their regular pay is. So if somebody worked 40 hours or more, their regular pay is going to be 40 hours. Okay? If I worked 25 hours, my regular pay is going to be 25 hours. If I worked 48 hours, my regular pay is going to be 40 hours. If I worked 35 hours, my regular pay is going to be 35. So if they worked 40 hours or more, the regular pay column should say the number 40. Anything over that will become the number that we put into the overtime pay column. Okay? So let's go ahead and insert the formula here for column E. Our logical test, we're going to be looking at how many hours they've worked. So I'm going to click in D5, and you're going to have to remember the greater than, equal than symbol in Excel. Some basic arithmetic, basic factors. So I'm going to go ahead and put greater than or equals to. Actually, they would like you to do less than, which I think is odd, but less than or equal to. So D5, is it less than or equal to the base hour of 40? Well, we know that 48 is bigger than 40, so that is false. D5 is not less than or greater than B21. Now, I'm going to want to fill this formula throughout the spreadsheet, so I'm going to want to do something called absolute referencing to the specific cell, which means that it anchors it into the formula if I was to fill this formula down. That absolute referencing, you can just go ahead and select the cell, and then the function keys at the top of your keyboard, those F1, F2, F3, F4, F5s, click the F4, which will absolute reference that specific cell in the formula. So we know that D5, which is 48, and in cell B21, that's 40. 48 is less than 48? No, that's false. 48 is not less than 40, and so we know that's correct here. But if that was true, what would we want to put into that box? Well, we would want to have in that box whatever was in this cell. Because if they worked less than 40 hours, then they shouldn't be paid for 40 hours. They should only be paid for the hours that they worked. If that is false, then we'd like whatever's in this cell to come in, the 40 hours. That's it. That's what you get paid for your regular pay. And again, we're going to absolutely reference that cell as well. So we're just getting the hours here. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. But we actually want to not just have the hours, but we want to know exactly how much are they supposed to be paid. Well, I know this person, Abram, gets paid $9.95 an hour. So in addition to the if function, I'm going to go ahead and click right here. I'm going to put a multiplication symbol, and I'm going to click that $9.95. Now, I provided you a document in the announcements that has screenshots of these formulas to help you. I'm going to push Control Enter on my keyboard, which enters that formula there. You should have $398, and I will autofill that down. Because I anchor the B21 and the B21, those specific cells will show in the following formulas. All right, I'm going to do the next part, which is the F5. So we want to know what their overtime pay is. Well, I could easily calculate the 48 minus 40 is 8. So their overtime pay is 8 hours times $9.95. However, overtime pay is not just the pay per hour, but it's also times 1.5. If I have a large spreadsheet, I don't want to have to keep the time multiplying these things in my head. I want Excel to do the math for me. That's why we have these functions. So here I'm going to click in F5. I'm going to go ahead and click on the logical folder, click the if function. And my logical test here is if D5 is greater than B21, I'm going to absolute reference that. Then in this box, D5 should subtract from that. So if that's true, if 48 is bigger than the 40, whatever's in that cell, then I should get whatever that number is. If that is not true, in this box, I would like a 0. But then again, if that is true, I don't just want the number of hours, I want to know exactly how much they're supposed to be paid. So here, I will have to add a little more. They're going to have multiplication times how many hours they've worked, times how much they get paid per hour, times the 1.5. Now, I know I didn't go over this last week, but mathematical operations, PEMDAS, I know you've learned that at some point, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, is the order of operations that math is calculated. So parentheses will always be done before exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. That's the order they occur. So if I just went ahead and did a multiplication of the 8 times the 995 times the 1.5, which is down here, it would multiply all of these first before doing the subtraction for me, and that would be an incorrect number. So I would have to put a parentheses around this part of the formula. Open parenthesis here, close parenthesis here, so I can get this is 8 times 995 times the 1.5 hours. You're going to want to absolute reference this cell, and you will have to absolute reference this cell because I want these pieces of the formula to be in every single one of these people's formula. I will click OK, and then I'm going to go ahead and autofill that down as well for overtime pay. And those who did not work overtime, so for example, Higginbotham doesn't get any overtime pay. Ianziti, Ling, Munoz, Riley, Sabay does, but Trujillo, they all do not get any overtime pay.